I just think we should start.
Yeah, you decide, but I'm in no hurry. It's not like I have to run. So yeah,
Okay.
you can give it
Okay.
a minutes.
But good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great pleasure to welcome to our public program Vibeke Vestby, an artist, weaver, sewer, teacher, and pedagogue, and also a creator of automatic jacquard loom, which changed quite a lot in contemporary art and in design sphere. And also, this is the loom on which Kристина Пашкова is doing her artwork or has done her artwork that is now at the exhibition at CCI Fabrica. And to just go through some technical details, I'm gonna say them in Russian and in English, just to be clear. So this parallel program is built up in terms of Kristina's exhibition, which is called Cycles of Connections. And this exhibition is yet another way for Kристина to present her artwork and to present her work with textile practices, and also talk about the conjunction of cyberfeminism and textile practices. So until 2nd of March, the exhibition is open, and we will be very happy if you can come and take a look at it. Also, throughout this program, we had several talks and several lectures, and all of them are available on YouTube. So I will post a link in the chat a bit later. And now a few just super technical remarks. This meeting is recorded so that we can go back to it and maybe in some time and learn something more or just try to refresh our memory. So please try to mute your microphones throughout the part of our lovely speaker talking so that we can have a recording clean for the future generations to listen. And also, another technical detail is that for those who want to listen to the speech in Russian, there is an interpretation. Я скажу сейчас это все на русском еще раз, чтобы все было запечатлено на двух языках. Добрый вечер еще раз. Мы сегодня собрались в рамках параллельной программы к выставке Кристины Пашковой «Циклы, связей и действия». Эта встреча записывается. Мы очень надеемся, что вы все согласились на эту запись и нажали на соответствующую кнопочку, когда заходили в Zoom. Пожалуйста, на протяжении всей встречи постарайтесь выключить свои микрофоны, чтобы запись шла чисто. После того, как встреча закончится, эта запись будет на YouTube-канале Фабрики. Мы чуть позже в Telegram-канале Фабрики опубликуем все эти записи как по отдельности, так и вместе. Также тем, кому не очень комфортно слушать на английском языке, для вас сегодня есть опция перевода. Для того, чтобы переключиться на русскую дорожку и послушать перевод Анны, которая нам с этим помогает, вам нужно нажать на кнопку Interpretation или перевод, который находится в нижней панели Zoom, и выбрать там русский канал. Он так и называется, Russian или русский. И там дорожка будет доступна на русском. И сегодня у нас на встрече Вибеке Вестбю. Вибеке ткачиха, художница и создательница полу-автоматического жаккардового станка, который стоит в сводах, и на котором Кристина сделала свою работу, которую вы можете увидеть на выставке в ЦТИ Фабрика. So, in a nutshell, all the technical details. Вкратце все технические детали. И сейчас, не отнимая больше времени у нашего спикера, хочу передать ей микрофон. So, Vibeke, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'll start by choosing to share the screen. And I need you to tell me if it's okay. Well, I thank you for this opportunity because this has been a lifelong passion for me, and I'm very happy that people will want to listen. And as you know, yeah, there is one loom in Moscow, but both because of COVID and the turmoils in the world, I have had no news about it for a long time. So this was such a joy to reconnect and learn that it's being used. So I think that the TC2 must be every weaver's dream. So that's where I'm starting. And let's see, can I go to the next? Quickly running through the history. In 1985, I was teacher at the College of Art and Design in Oslo, and we started to develop a small weaving program which could be used to plan weave structures. And you could even put colors on, like you see on top. But then I realized very quickly that the magic happens with the fibers and the finishing methods. So below you see a close-up of the loom, and then what it looks like when it's been washed. And I thought, unless you can have a computer program showing you this, it's so much that's lost. So I started to focus on how to control the loom in more flexible ways. And this is a prototype where we controlled shafts in a traditional wooden loom. So this would control 8 shafts. And then I was also looking at what was going on in the world. In the USA, there was the artist Leah Cook. She showed pieces like this in the late 70s. And I was totally amazed. How did she do it? The one on the left with the lattice pattern, it is simply inserting thinner and thicker weft. So the same weft had different thicknesses. And I thought that was a brilliant way of playing with the weft to get a new type of design to show. And the one on the right
I'm
side.
sorry for interrupting, but do you are changing the slides now?
No?
We are on the first slide.
You are. Oh, let's see. I was on my screen. I'm changing.
No, we see the slide, the loom for creators, every weaver's dream.
Wow. Then let me see. I'm going to the good thing that you told me, because I went to do you see this one? No.
Now the history.
It says history. And then, okay, so I have to click on, thank you. So I talked about the point paper, not showing the whole thing. And then I have the prototype where I controlled 8 shafts. And now we are at Leah Cook. And you see on the left side where she uses thin and thick weft. And on the right side, which I thought was even more brilliant, she wove the fabric and then she pressed it in a graphic press, so it was totally flat, and then she painted on the threads. And that way she made it look like it was a very complicated design, but it was woven on a loom with a few shafts. There was another woman, do you see the next one, Cynthia Shearer? She is also American, and she worked with a loom with 16 shafts, but she picked up the pattern, and she showed these 2 pieces, 1985 and 1986, which I thought were magical, on a shaft loom. But she said she needed maybe 45 minutes to insert 1 shuttle from left to right. I mean, because she was changing the shed and inserting maybe 2 centimeters more, changing the shed again, keeping on like that. But they showed that it's possible to go way beyond the shafts. And the third person I wanted to mention is Sheila O'Hara. And she was inspired by cartoons. And so this night flight from 1985, again woven on a loom with 16 shafts, and the Fog City Dinos, the building they're tossing the rings at, it's like a landmark in San Francisco, a Trans-American building or something. But these people triggered my curiosity, and I thought every weaver dreams of making something a little bit more complex. So in 1990, the Norwegian government made a grant available, and they called it the Information Technology Program. And anybody working in universities and colleges could apply for funds for more research. And my project was to make every weaver's dream, a loom that would be like the jacquard loom in industry, but operated by a hand weaver. So I made this table where I tried to list the types of loom. So on the left side, you see that tapestry loom is, of course, the most basic loom. And at the bottom of the list, I wrote electronic jacquard. In a tapestry loom, you have a maximum freedom when you create patterns. But if you look at the time it takes to weave, it takes a very long time to weave it. And so I wanted to find this cross between something that would give the maximum freedom and which would take as little time as possible. And that was, according to me, the TC2 loom, or the electronic jacquard at the bottom of the list. But I'm using this table because I made it in 91 to get the grant, and anyway, it's still valid today. And then after I got the funding, we started to build. I started to look at different types of looms, and the one on the left here, it is the left of the two. It's from 1789, and it's a cast iron loom with foot pedals. So you could sit, and then you were just using your feet, and it was operating the shuttles really quickly. And then on the right-hand side, you see the loom that is used by Harris tweed weavers in Scotland. And that, again, you're sitting on a bicycle seat and you're pedaling away, and you can weave 110 picks per minute. And it was invented because then they can still sell the Harris tweed fabrics as hand woven, because it was not used a machine. But it's just to show that throughout times, people have been creative and inventive, trying to make a loom that will enable them to do something that is not existing. So this was one student I had who made a column-like loom, simply because she wanted to weave circular tapestry woven columns. And all these different examples convinced me that there must be a way of controlling every warp thread individually. So this is the first prototype from 1990, where we had a combination of magnets and electromagnets. It is resembling an old printer, where the printer head would go from side to side, spraying ink on the paper. So it would go across and click in the headles that should be lifted. But the limitations were that it was very difficult to make it wider or higher density. So we realized that that would be very limiting. And we kept on trying out different things. But in 91, I was an observer at an art and industry project in Germany. The picture looks like it's from 1890, but I don't know why it has yellowed so much. But anyway. I didn't hear.
Oh, no, sorry. I think it was just random noise.
Okay, so within 1991, I was lucky and was an observer at this project taking place in a factory with jacquard looms and a CAD system to draw whatever. And they invited 6 artists to come and do whatever they wanted. And there I met face-to-face Leah Cook, who was my first hero, when the weaving with the thin and thick weft. And there was also Cynthia Shearer over on that side, the one who picked up patterns so slowly, and Sheila O'Hara. So I saw that, of course, they were invited because they had been doing outstanding things. It convinced me that in industry, there's basically no limitations, but no artist can afford such a loom. So I went to Lisio in Italy, where they had old jacquard looms where you had to punch the cards and sew the chain and develop the design on the point paper. And it was very, very important to understand the ancient technology in order to be able to think, how can this be optimized? So I spent 3 months there, and I got home with 3 woven samples, and each of them were smaller than an A4 page. So it was a lot of work. But then we started to continue to develop a new version of the TC modules. They were hanging in a traditional loom still, but they were now it's possible to put several next to each other and several behind each other. So we had resolved the density and width issue. And we also then launched a brochure where we marketed it. And I thought at this point that everybody in weaving will buy this loom. And it was a shock in a way to discover that now that we had a product, no weaver wanted it, because they had been trained to think within the limitations of the traditional loom, and it was scary for them to think that you could do basically whatever you want. So one of my students said it's as if somebody pulled the carpet away from under your feet. It's like totally scary. But we did sell one loom here, one loom there, and so this with 8 modules, that was in 1998, and you could weave quite complex things. And we planned on going to a big trade show in the States. And I got an intern from a school in Finland, from the Vetterhof school, and I gave her the challenge to weave samples of things that would not have been possible to weave in a traditional loom. So the first thing she did was to weave a photograph, and then the fact that you could resize one design, you could try it out bigger, and then that you could play around with the colors as well to get the elements to line up in different ways, and then that you could weave with multiple shuttles in more traditional repetitive designs, and then piqué weave, where you have a filling weft between the layers, so you could create this 3-dimensional expression. And the fact that you can throw out a certain number of warp threads per centimeter, so that you can try a thicker weft material and still weave the design with different, well, same dimensions, but on different warp densities. And so this is the exhibition in Atlanta in Georgia, where we had a quite big stand and all these posters on the wall where we demonstrated what had been woven on the loom. And in the States, the attitude was very different from what I'd met in Europe. In Europe, the first question would be, who else has it? And then depending on who had it, they would maybe consider getting one. But in the States, people said, wow, I want one. And so that was kind of very important for us to get started. And this is a loom we sold to a factory in New Orleans, and they were weaving mattress tickets, you know, the fabric around mattresses. But this was the max we could do in a TC1 loom, 16 modules, 3,500 and some warp threads. So, and to make these looms, it was a lot of manual assembly. and labor costs is expensive in Norway. So we realized it was they would either be too expensive they were not sellable, or we would have to sell them with loss. So in 2010, we started to redesign, and we launched the TC2 in 2012. And while we were doing that development, lots of people emailed me and asked, so what's happening? Are you coming with the new loom soon? And when will it be available? So I started a blog, and then I found this little feature where you could log how many people have been on your webpage the past week. And to me, this was a shock. I mean, really a shock to see that there were people in South America and Hawaii and God knows where, and didn't mean that they would buy the loom, but they already had figured out that we were developing it. So very encouraging. And then we went on. So, I mean, the only way to sell this loom was to take it to trade shows and exhibitions and teach workshops, because people had to touch it and use it to understand the possibilities. So this is just a quick run through, but this is from Denver, Colorado, 2004. One customer who made this weaving on her TC1 loom. And then in 2006, a group of 11 of our customers went together and made an exhibition at a museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so the catalog from there. And then in 2007, we did a quite interesting project with the Baltic countries. So Monica, who's on the picture on the left side, she's a professor at the Art Academy in Vilnius, Kaunas. And she organized 4 workshops, one in Kaunas and one in Lithuania, one in Latvia and one in Estonia. And then back again, the last session in Kaunas with an exhibition. And then here's a little glimpse from conference in London in 2007, where I was teaching a workshop together with an American artist, Bhakti Sikh. And here's from 2013-14, when we had Catherine Amidei from the States, 1 year here in Norway as our artist in residence. And she was weaving almost like paintings, and the way she did it was with 1 little second here. Where do you see it? 180 grader. Little distraction here. So she used 8 shuttles going from side to side, plus 4 brocading shuttles. And by now she's left the photographic language in a way and is working totally abstract. But it's a fantastic thing. Every sample she would weave, she started with weaving a color blanket to see the color mixes. And then the process is basically weave by numbers. You would see that, okay, that combination goes in there and that goes in there. And this is from an exhibition in London in 2010. It's called The Future is Here. It was at the London Design Museum. And it was Philippa Brock, whom you may have heard of. She was the head of textiles at Central St. Martin's. And she did a lot of interesting works with elastic weft materials. So she would and weave structures that would create very 3-dimensional pieces. And then we had a project in Abu Dhabi in 2013, where it's the first time ever, I think, that a hand loom was part of an exhibition. And one of our customers traveled there and was weaving 8 hours a day for 8 days on end. And it resulted in 65 meters of fabric. And every night they would drape them in different shapes. And it's a tribute to the nomad women in the desert who are weaving, well, putting the warp on the desert sand and weaving similar textiles. And then this is just a list of conferences throughout Europe. The yellow ones are the ones I went to. So you see, it was a lot of traveling with the loom without necessarily selling very much, but the only way to make it known. This was an exhibition that was immediately after the pandemic. It was a customer in Denmark who had an exhibition, she called it Worldwide Weaving, and she had invited friends. So there was one artist from Canberra, Australia, one from Scotland, one from California, and they had been instructed to send the pieces to Denmark and also to record a video, and it should be the same length and the same format. So when it was running in the exhibition, it was it felt like they were interviewed on site. And this is a Norwegian textile artist who was very early embedding sound in her textiles. She was absolutely not the first one in the world, but she is maybe the one who has persistently explored the possibilities. And she had a big exhibition in a gallery in Oslo last summer. Perla Pigao is her name. Her textiles are interactive in the sense that when you approach them, they start emitting sound. And the closer you get, the more sound you hear. And if some other person approaches from another angle, then the sounds become more complex, and it's almost like a composition or a choreography. And then this is a customer in Taiwan, Wenying Huang. She has worked a lot with different kinds of reflective materials. So here there are art pieces where you can only see the full story if you have a black light. So she had an exhibition in a pitch dark room, and you got a flashlight and you could walk in and see what. So it was a very interesting concept. But she's done a lot of interesting work on weaving with metal, surgical steel, silver, copper, and has done several big commissions. I like these small hand purses as well, because she had an exhibition in a department store in Taipei where she had these pictures inspired from the 50s. It was a little bit like a Jackie Kennedy type of photographs, and then she wove them on purses that would be kind of 1950s. But she has developed a whole technique how to wind the metal warp on the TC2 loom. And those are the things that I'm always so happy to see, that people just think of the loom as a tool and they just modify it to fit their needs. This is an artist in the States, Janice Lessman Moss, and she has incorporated silver thread in her weaving. And that means it's possible to shape, although this is displayed flat on the wall. This is actually Leah Cook again in a revisited. Now she is weaving without any known weave structures, and she's using brocading more and more. So she has a black and white, black warp white weft, and then brocading with these colors to get the imagery she wants. And this is a Danish artist, Grete Sørensen. She has an exhibition. She had an exhibition in 2012 called Traces of Light, and it was photographs taken with a camera with a wide opening, so that every image was very blurred, but they were taken from different places around the world. So she would have one from Times Square in New York and one from Sydney and whatever. But she wove these pieces first by hand, and then she used 12 different weft colors. And then she's now traveling to the Textile Museum in Tilburg in the Netherlands, where they weave them on big power looms. And this is also Grete Sørensen, and I'm including it because I think it's a nice example of how textiles can inspire other materials. So this is the National Archives in Denmark. So concrete walls, and then they have sandblasted the concrete so that it looks like weave structures. Here's a close-up. And from some distance, the whole building looks like bookshelves with books in it. And then this is an English weaver, Fiona Sperrin. She weaves art pieces, decorative pieces, but also some shawls and scarves and that kind of things. But she's an illustrator more than anything, and she got a prize last year for the best animal drawings in Great Britain that year. So interesting. And another customer in England, they are doing samples for fashion houses. So they travel to trade shows around in France and Germany twice a year and bring with them a stack of woven samples. And factories walk around and buy samples together with the computer file so they can produce it in their factories. And the same with Kirsty McDougall. This is just an article from New York Times last summer, and the title was Reinventing Tartans. So that was well, interesting to see how the TC loom can make people, well, make a traditional design much bigger, more crazy. And here's some research that's going on at the Technical University in Delft in the Netherlands. Their project is to make zero waste fashion. So they're trying out weaving a pair of trousers that are actually woven flat, but when you cut it out, it's actually with two legs and the top, so there's virtually, well, less waste than any other production technique. And they're doing this with fashion garments as well. It's very, very interesting. This is also an artist in the Netherlands. She's actually from Switzerland, and she got the Swiss Designer Award last year, together with a fashion designer whom she collaborated with. They call this augmented weaving. And the idea is that behind the jacket, you can see the flat fabric with the pattern pieces. So you can cut them out and stitch them together, basically. And that means no seams are straight, not going along the arm or the leg, but more like when you peel an orange, that it's totally organic. And I think it's interesting to see that new concepts grow out of the loom because you have the possibility. And this is an artist in the States. She started with a project where she documented women and water and sourced, it was people from different Indian tribes, from the Polynesian islands, from different cultures where water was a very precious resource. And so she documented women who had found water or provided water in different places. And then Bhakti Tzik, she's also American, and I love her pieces because she's weaving her instructions. Like you see in the middle here, she's explaining Lampas weave with the ratio and what kind of weft materials and warp materials. And the past few years, she has been weaving what she calls an encyclopedia of hand weaving. Going through traditional techniques and explaining them and making them available. And here's the project from Finland, from the Aalto University. She, Emmi Puta, has woven the fabric for a little hand puppet, and then she has used conductive materials and connecting it to an electronic board, and then this can be used for training or teaching small children, like mimicking playing with the puppet. And this is documented on the internet. She published a paper on it. And then there's some new concepts, makers spaces that show up. This is she's actually from Lithuania, but she's living in Norway, and she has a studio where she's offering digital weaving workshops. And you can also travel with her to a weaving mill and weave large-scale versions of it. And then, I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones, but in Western Europe, that was like a plague. Everybody saw every episode. It went on for several years, and eventually the Tourism Board of Ireland and HBO agreed on making one continuous piece of fabric that would contain the highlights of every episode of every season of Game of Thrones. And right now, this is on display at the museum in Ulster in Belfast. And it's 80 meters long. And the whole idea was that this should be a little bit longer than the Bayeux carpet, which is the longest continuous textile historically. But it was woven on a TC2 loom with one black and one white warp thread and 4 shuttles. And then they collaborated with some local embroidery people who would highlight a little bit with gold thread or whatever here and there. And then we have the most recent trade shows. That was ITMA in Milan in 2023. That is a big industrial fair. It means International Textile Machinery and Accessories Fair. And that is the right place to go when you want to communicate with potential customers in all continents and all parts of the world. So on our stand, we had that augmented weaving jacket, the white jacket, and we had a piece from a designer who lives in Tokyo, who's weaving blankets and interior textiles in general. She's prototyping them on the TC2 loom, and then it's woven in a factory. And of course, we chose to show textiles that were woven industrially because it was an industrial fair. And this was what it looked like most of the time, really busy, lots of people queuing up. But so here is squeezed together world map. And the white is where we have looms. And then you see that South America, no looms. South Africa, almost no looms. Actually, now we should update the map because we have looms in India, and that's a big country. But anyway, it's a little bit of a graph showing where we have the most looms. And so you see that Europe is the biggest, and then second is North America. And then here's also what type of customers do we have? They cover education, that's the biggest group, but also individual artists and companies, that's a growing group, and also R&D labs or these maker spaces, that's coming very strongly. And then I thought some just quick glances of where we have been, like a workshop in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and in Sweden, Tbilisi, China, in Hangzhou, they have 3 TC2 looms by now. And then there's another one from Hangzhou, and this is Turkey. It's and also this was a group from a university in the Philippines. They came to Norway first to have training here, and then afterwards one of our customers went to the Philippines and had a continued workshop there. And this is from Lebanon. This is 2019, and God knows what it looks like now. But and this is from the workshop in the Philippines, Baguio. And by now we have representatives in 10 different countries. It's not like an office and like a car vendor, but it's customers who know so much about the loom that when we sell a loom in that country or region, we send that person to the customer to train them and help them getting started. And here are some of the Fab Lab maker spaces. You see them from all over Netherlands, Finland, the United States, Belgium. And we have others from well, Chicago, Spain. Anyway, I see that what will happen is this will become a new way of traveling. You know, if you are preparing an exhibition and you would like to weave some pieces, you can just find on the map, oh, maybe I could go to Bilbao and weave a piece there, and then maybe you could go to Iceland and weave a piece there on a TC2 loom. Many of the places have as a criteria that you have to have, you have to know how to operate the loom, and then you can come and do whatever you want. And so this has some of the educational institutions. And this was the last slide. So if you have questions, please bring them forward.
Thank you so much, Vibeke. Yes, please, if you have any questions or comments or something that you want to share right away, please don't feel shy, raise the hand or just switch on your mic and ask it.
Thank you, Vibeke. Can you please tell me how is workshops, how are the workshop organized? I mean, when you are going abroad with your loom, and also I noticed the picture, for instance, from China, I guess, where they weave a very long but narrow piece. So as far as I can understand, everybody can try to weave, but also there is not big, not much wide, just not to spend much time on warping.
You are right. Most of the time when I'm teaching workshops, I use a very simple, for example, black warp or white warp, and I make it quite narrow, maybe 35, 40 centimeters. And so everybody who signed up for the workshop will receive that information up front to know that it's going to be a black warp, it's going to be mercerized cotton, because I want strong materials that are not breaking easily. And then we spend time on teaching them how to make files. So they can work in Photoshop or whatever, but to go from an image, a drawing or something, and apply weave structures and then size it to fit the loom which is there. And when we have sold the loom, I will have prepared the warp before I go there, and then the first part of the workshop is to teach people how to wind it on and thread heddles and make it ready to weave on. And then we have time, a couple of days, to make files, and then one after the other will just weave their sample. And on the last day, we will cut it apart so they can take it home.
That's so nice format. And how much days does it take?
Yeah. When we sell a loom, we usually say 4 days. But when I'm teaching a workshop, when I bring the loom and afterwards bring the loom back to Norway, I have had only 3-day workshops as well. But then we ship the loom with the warp on. So that means it's in a way cheating. But then I think the most important is to build people's confidence that they will be able to make a file, because if they are not sure they can do that, they will never ever buy a loom or sign up for using one. But we have a whole pile of handouts where to explain how to do it in Photoshop. But I also share with people these shareware programs. You can use them without investing any money on the, so like AutoCAD, which is in the cloud, and some use what is it called again? Well, anyway, there are a number of free programs you can use for designing.
There is a question in the chat whether you thread the loom manually, or are there any other ways how to do it?
I do it manually. And you know, it's actually faster to thread the TC2 loom than a traditional loom, because if you have 12 shafts in a traditional loom, you constantly have to check and double check that the heddle you grab is on the right shaft. But here all heddles are threaded in a fixed cycle, and then afterwards, when you have made you can weave a file that's actually for 4 shafts or 8 shafts, and you just simulate that you have a threading like that. I think I have a sample if you want to see.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
That's where I tuck in all the. Let's see where we be. So I should have made a little stack available beforehand. Now, just examples on how to make different colors. I'll try to get more light on it. But that's one black and one white warp thread, and then all the rest is happening with the shuttles. And it's 4 shuttles, tapestry weaves. So that's just one example. And I think I have some others. Lots of the samples. This is white. I don't know if it's going to show at all, but let's try. The idea is that if you look at, for example, that one, it could have been woven on 6 shafts, I guess, and then maybe that one could have been woven on, I just have to make a guess, but it's maybe 8 shafts, and then I can kind of browse through pages in a weaving theory book, and then I can try them out with different materials. And once I think, oh, okay, now I know what I will use, and then you can start producing. But in a traditional loom, between like that sample and that sample, it would be at least 1 day's work. And sometimes then you would think that it's not worth it, you know, it's going to be too much work. So I'm trying to encourage people to focus on texture and color, not necessarily only photographs.
That's very nice that you said. I'm just going to jump in with my question about the people who were working on the manual looms. Do you have some examples or maybe stories about people who radically shifted from doing the manual weaving to doing it on TC2 or maybe TC1 before?
In a way, yes. The artist who had that big exhibition with traces of light in that big gallery in Copenhagen, she and a colleague bought the TC2 and TC1 loom together in year 2000, and already by then she was almost 60, and so now she's past 80 anyway. But she said she was well known in Denmark. She was a very, very skilled crafts weaver. She would have sold woolen scarves on Christmas markets. She had designed table linen for Georg Jensen Damask weaving mill. She had made priest vestments, church textiles. But with the TC2, it was TC1. Suddenly, she could choose, and what she found out was she didn't even have to use the traditional weave structures. If you think of it, when you zoom in on the computer screen and you zoom in, in the end you see the pixels, and that is what's inspiring her. So she's never using traditional weave structures. She's just using the pixels on the screen, and now she's weaving these big commissions, like city halls and university aulas, you know. So she said at 60, her life changed, you know. Suddenly she had these big commissions. And I think, yeah, it's inspiring for me as well, because there are so many who say, oh, I should have had it when I was young. But it's like, no, as long as you have ideas. There's one lady from the States who came here 2 summers ago and took a workshop. And while she was here, she said she had been a designer in industry, and she's the only person I know of who have a piece at the Museum of Modern Art in New York as a designer. But she bought the loom when she was 77. She was sitting here and said, it's my birthday today and I'm buying the loom. And then now she's super active and weaving along. So I think it's never too late.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay, but then can I ask one more? I was wondering, because you kind of touched upon that, but can you walk us through your process? So you, I don't know, get a request or a question from someone who wants to try. You try weaving those difficult projects or the projects that you haven't tried doing before together with the weavers and customers that you get acquainted with, right? So how do you do that, and how much of your personal work is involved while elaborating and making this processes?
Good question, but it's not a short answer to it, because I think my background is also weaving. So when people say, do you think is it possible to weave this or that? I can at least say whether I think it will be possible, but I don't know if my suggestion to a solution will correspond to their dream. I mean, maybe they will say, no, I didn't have that in mind. So very often I say, if they can't travel, I say, send me some materials and the sketch and I'll try. And then if they like it, we can schedule a workshop and they can come and learn more. But I don't want to sell the loom to somebody if I'm not sure they can do something nice with it, because we don't need customers who have a loom collecting dust in a corner. And yeah, so there has been times where I'm telling people that I'm not sure you should have a loom like this, because some people want to produce fast, and this is not a tool to make things fast. But well, there are, that's why I have all those samples behind me. They're usually just the first or the second trial of something. And then when I'm making something that I like better, I send it to the potential customer. And so I'm left with the less successful ones. Yeah. But I don't know if you shared with everybody, but in August we are going to celebrate ourselves, because it's now 30 years ago since we sold the first TC1 loom, and we thought that's a good excuse for organizing a little conference. So we have invited some of our customers to come and be speakers. And then we invite everybody who wants to come and participate.
Yes, and it's going to be in August, right? Like middle part of August.
12th to the 15th. And it's because it's going to be hosted at a hotel near the factory. And they have a low season. So, we have to find the time when there's less other people there. So... But it's maybe I think it's okay, because at least in Europe, August is the big vacation month, so it's maybe easier for people to get away.
So it's going to be offline.
We think we will record everything and make it available, but maybe only afterwards, because we have. Well, depends on the budget, but anyway, we do want to record everything.
Yeah, it would be lovely. I would like to.
Well, yeah. Sorry.
Yes, me too. Thank you very much. It was so inspiring. May I ask you some questions, maybe privately? Can I send you an email, maybe?
Yes. Yes.
Just because my question is my husband is a graphic designer, and he produces electronic jacquard tapestries. And we would like, I considered the idea to buy a TC2, but our investor said that maybe it's, how to say, it's not so, how the production is not so speedy, like comparing to like in the factory. So this was the question. But I still dreaming, and I'd like to ask your maybe your vision. Is it possible to transform his graphics to TC2 tapestry?
Yes, we have one customer in Oslo who's a graphic artist primarily. She said that over the years she had her art is very pure and well, very simple compositions, black and white, very graphical. But she said she had all these drawings with ornaments and patterns that she felt they didn't fit in her graphic work, but she bought TC2 loom during the pandemic together with her old mother, and then she pulled out all these drawings, and now she has a kind of a sideline. She's producing pillows and placemats, and I think she never learned weaving at all. I spent half a day teaching her the basics, and that's what she's using. But she is selling pillows and placemats, and because of her art background, she has good compositions, and I can share the website. I just have to find it. But anyway, it's showing that if you know graphics, composition, and then it can be translated into simple or more complex weave structures. So let's see.
Yeah, thank you. It's very inspiring.
Well, I'm happy because yeah, I think I could have talked until tomorrow, showing samples of everything. But you have my email address, Kristina, so you just
Yeah,
share it.
yeah, of
thank you.
course, of course.
Great.
Okay, do we have more questions? Because then maybe I'm gonna ask, I don't know, Christina, do you have something in mind? No. Because then I'm gonna ask also maybe my last question, because you've been working, it's 30 years this year. Congratulations on that
Yeah.
amazing date. It's been lots of work and lots of amazing artistic and design works that you showed us today. I think it's, I don't know, 10% of what was done by people who are working on TC2 and TC1. And what is next step? Is there going to be a TC3 at some point, or what is your future predictions?
Lots of people ask about that, but I think the TC1 lived for 17 years, and the reason why we stopped making it wasn't because it was because some of the components going into that loom were no longer possible to buy. So electronics has a very short lifespan, and so I think if there's going to be a TC3, it will be if we are told that, sorry, the component you have on the electric board is no longer possible to make. Because when we got to that point, we saw we could either make exactly the same kind of loom, or we could implement some of the improvements. We do get feedback from customers and we learn, and so maybe there will be a TC3. But then again, I'm thinking the concept is identical from the first prototype to now, and I have always been very negative to, we don't want high speed, because the textile industry is full of looms with high speed, and we don't want to make super wide. I mean, if a customer wants to make something that's very, very wide, we can always make one special loom for that width, but somebody has to throw the shuttle, and if it's so I think it's another concept to have panels and add them up. So I think I don't know. I think maybe what's interesting right now is all these new ways of making warps. I think that because some of our customers say that earlier the weaving was so slow, it took forever. But now with the TC2 loom, you can go through ideas fairly quickly. And then the next challenge is to make warps. And that's where I think not only we, but textile industry are working on some interesting ideas.
Yeah, that's what I like in your concept, that you're always remembering about the weaver, how it will throw the shuttle, and if you make it more wide, it's gonna be non-human size, and it's very, I don't know, it's very warm in me, like a person who stands behind it and collaborates with this machine. It is that I can feel it. So yeah, very nice.
I'm glad.
Yeah, and of course my questions only like they're quite silly. Like I really wanted to somehow have you here with a workshop, and I only can dreaming about reuniting with other weavers and maybe to learn more about the faster warping, weaving with more colors and textures, because I just wanted to learn more.
But there is a possibility of having online workshops. It's again second best only, but one could have, for example, 1 hour introducing something, and then one could connect 2 days later and look at what has come out of it, and then keep on stepwise like that. That's at least in the near future, I think that's the only realistic thing. But I would love to do that, because it's as long as it can be fitted into we are more or less on the same time.
Mhm.
Not like day and night, Australia and Europe.
Mhm.
Mm.
Great, thanks.
Mm. No, but just email me with the suggestions, and then we could look at it, because if we have a workshop online, there are people in the States too offering online workshops, but it's usually on how to prepare files for the TC2 loom, or how to do double weaves, or some things like that.
Yeah, it's also interesting. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Great.
Mm.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Christina, for your last question. This is very important to have a very nice last question all the time. So, and I'm posting the website of Digital Weaving at .Norway.
Yes.
Please follow the news. There will be a big conference in August, and it would be great if the materials would be available online.
Mm.
All of us would really appreciate that. And just once again, thank you so much, Vibeke. It was a pleasure to have a conversation with you, and to also look at the samples that you were showing, and to see that you have the full, wardrobe, like filled with different textile pieces. It's very inspiring and very important for us to have this exchange. And thank you so much to our listeners and to our participants for your questions, for your, thinking together with us and listening to Vibeke. And let's all stay in touch, and we see each other again on Saturday on the Artist Talk of Hope Wang, whom I guess Vibeke also kind of mentioned today when she said about Loom Room.
Exactly. Yes, thank you to you, and email me. I'm here. So
Thank you.
Good luck with your weaving. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.